I used to start books all the time and almost never finish them. I get excited about a book, read a few pages, and a week later, it would just sit there. Maybe you've had the same experience. You want to read more, but sticking with it is a lot harder than it seems. For a long time, I thought the problem was discipline. I thought I just needed to push myself harder. But recently, something happened that made me realize I was approaching reading completely wrong. And once I saw it, sticking with reading suddenly became a whole lot easier. And the moment that made me realize this happened when I was reading something I never expected. Right now, I'm reading the Bible, and I recently started going through Genesis. When I was younger, Genesis always felt like this huge, intimidating book, the kind of book that would take forever to get through. But this time, it felt completely different. Instead of forcing myself to read it, I actually wanted to. I was curious about the story and what the passages meant. And because of that, reading it didn't feel difficult at all. That's when I started asking myself, why does this feel so much easier than other books I've tried to read? That question made me look back at how I used to approach reading, and I realized something. For a long time, I thought the key to reading was more discipline. So I tried to force it. I picked books that I thought were important, or books that I felt like I should read. But almost every time I did that, the same thing would happen. I'd read a little, lose focus, and eventually I would just stop. And that's when it clicked for me. I had been stuck in something I now think of as the discipline trap. The discipline trap is when you try to build a reading habit purely through willpower. You assume if you just push yourself harder, the habit will eventually stick. But for me, it rarely did. So if discipline wasn't what made this reading experience feel easier, something else had to be happening. And that's when I noticed the biggest difference. I wasn't forcing myself to read Genesis. I was curious about it. I wanted to understand the story, and I wanted to see what happened next. And that curiosity kept pulling me forward. That's when I started thinking about this as a curiosity engine. When you're curious about something, your brain actually changes how it learns. Researchers at the University of California, Davis found that curiosity activates the brain's reward system, the same system that motivates you to keep searching for answers. When the system is active, your brain becomes more focused and more open to new information, which means reading stops feeling like effort. Curiosity starts pulling you to the next page. But even after realizing curiosity made reading easier, I still had another problem. I used to put a lot of pressure on myself when reading. I felt like every reading session had to be productive, like I needed to understand everything or finish a certain number of pages. But that pressure actually made reading harder, because learning doesn't really work that way. Your brain strengthens knowledge by building connections between neurons, and those connections grow stronger gradually through repetition. Understanding develops over time. Once I realized that, I started approaching reading differently. Instead of trying to read perfectly, I focused on making progress. A few pages, a chapter, or even just 10 minutes. I think of this as the progress principle. The goal isn't perfect reading, the goal is simply moving forward. And once I stopped trying to read perfectly, another pattern started to stand out. I realized that habits survive when they have flexibility. Some days I read a lot, other days I don't feel like reading much at all. And that used to make me feel like I was failing the habit. But habits don't really grow through perfection. Behavioral research shows that habits form through small actions repeated consistently over time. That's why momentum matters more than perfect execution. For example, when I read during the week, my goal is usually 4 out of the 5 days. Not perfect, just consistent. And on days when I don't feel like sitting down with a book, I might listen to the audio version instead. It's not the same as reading a physical book, but it keeps the habit moving forward. That's what I think of as the momentum system. Consistency matters more than perfection. Following what genuinely fascinates you makes reading feel effortless and keeps you coming back naturally. But if you want to see why so many people still struggle to remember what they read, even when they're curious, I've broken down the subtle mistake almost everyone makes and how to fix it in this next video. Keep learning, keep growing, keep going, and I'll see you in the next one.